it's not just you. Coding is really difficult to get started into because you don't know what to study, where to study, how to study. I was finally able to land my dream job at 2 major tech companies, and I could have saved years of preparation if only I knew the correct path to learn programming. To make a long story short, I tried a lot of different things, from free courses to paid courses to literally learning algorithms and watching a ton of YouTube videos around it. And these are the 4 steps that I now realize I should have followed, and you might even be surprised how simple they are. This is how I would learn to code if I could start over again. Step number 1, learn problem solving. Every problem in computer science can be broken down into steps, and it is important to do before you write code for that problem. Actually, that is what most of software engineering is till my level. You have a problem and you need to come up with a solution to that problem, and code is just a way to express that solution. Even today, most of my job as a software engineer isn't to write code all day, but to come up with solutions to difficult problems, documenting that solution down and getting it reviewed by a senior, and then and only then do I move to the coding part. If I have to start from scratch again, I will try to build flowcharts for really simple coding questions. There are a ton of resources on the internet explaining you how to write flowcharts. Also, writing a flowchart for a question means that almost 50% of that question is done. I would suggest you to pick the most basic problems to get started with, like the school level problems on Geeks for Geeks, and just try to build flowcharts for those questions. And if you want an even simpler task, don't make flowchart for those problems. Just write a solution in English how you would solve that problem and check someone's Python solution for that. And problem solving is not just related to coding related problems. Whenever you are stuck somewhere, try to Google your issues and try to come up with a solution. Number 2, learn a programming language, because that's what you need to code. You will need an in-depth understanding for at least one programming language. The most common options right now are C++, Java, and Python. All of them are great languages to learn, but I would suggest you don't pick Python first, because Python isn't statically typed, and syntactically it is way easier to understand because it is pretty much like English. But learning C++ or Java will make you a much better programmer, and once you are confident in these languages, moving to a simpler language like JavaScript or Python is really easy as compared to, let's say, moving from Python to C++. Also, a lot of companies don't use Python as their primary language. Like most of Amazon's backend that I worked with was written in Java, and Google's backend consists of a lot of code written in C++. But Python is a really good programming language if you are short on time and you need to develop projects quickly, because making projects in C++ and Java is not that straightforward usually, because there's a steep learning curve and you'll need a lot of libraries to get anything working other than a command line tool. In my case, I had a little bit of experience with C and C++ because that was included in my coursework in my 11th and 12th grade and my first year of college. But it wasn't until my 3rd year that I seriously started learning C++. And once I was comfortable with C++, moving to other languages was really easy. Like I picked up JavaScript for web development, and then I wanted to play around with machine learning, so I picked up Python. And during my job, I switched to Java and TypeScript, and it was really easy. That's because almost every programming language has the same core principle. They are just modeled in a different way. Let's say you want to run a loop. It will be possible in every programming language, just the syntax will be different. And since some languages have a lot more support for some tasks, like Python for machine learning and data science, Kotlin for Android development, JavaScript for full stack web development, you will be switching to a lot of different languages if you try out a lot of different things. Now, how do you learn a programming language? I used a few websites like Geeks for Geeks to learn about new topics and HackerRank to practice. And no, this video isn't sponsored by any of these companies. I just personally liked them and used them. But hey, if you are watching and you want to sponsor me, you know I won't mind. Or you can pick up a new programming language, and this is the checklist that I follow whenever I pick up a new language, and you can follow it too by googling around and reading the documentation. First, print hello world. Second, try to define a variable. Third, learn about all the data types. Fourth, take an input and try to print an output. Fifth, learn about all the operators. Sixth, learn about conditionals like if, else, switch. Seventh, see how looping works. See how for loop, while loop, do while loop, how they work, and try to print some patterns like Pascal's triangle or squares. Learn about arrays, hash maps, strings. Next, see how functions work and try to make one. And after that, you can move on to searching, sorting, and data structures and algorithms. And you can do all of this for free by just reading the documentation or going to Geeks for Geeks for C++ and Java, or learn Python for Python, obviously. Step number 3, learn data structures and algorithms. Love it or hate it, you will need a good understanding of data structures and algorithms, since most of your interviews, if not all, will probably consist of data structures and algorithms. In an interview round, you will get a problem and you'll have to come up with a solution within 45 minutes. But what are data structures and algorithms? Data structures are just a way to store data, and algorithms are a set of steps to solve a programming task. That's pretty much it. There are a ton of data structures functions like arrays, strings, hash map, graphs, trees, linked list, queue, tag, trees, binary trees, BSTs, heap, graph, and a lot more. And there are a ton of algorithms on all of these data structures. Other than that, you'll need to learn time and space complexity, which is just a way to define the performance of your algorithm in terms of space and speed. And other than that, you'll need to learn object-oriented programming. I will let you Google that one. It is really overwhelming at the start because there's so much to do and you don't know how to do any of it. But once you start solving basic questions, you'll realize that there's a pattern to most of the questions. It's like maths. You learn a new concept and solve a ton of problems on that concept, ranging from easy to medium to even difficult problems. Now, how do you start? Where do you learn all these data structures and algorithms? Well, there are a ton of resources available online. You can follow YouTube tutorials or go for free courses or take a paid courses like I did. There's really no shortcut to this part. You will have to solve a lot of questions to get good at this. I solved a bunch of questions on Geeks for Geeks practice section and lead code. I did mostly medium level problems with a few easy and hard questions because that is how most of the interviews were structured. I also picked up competitive programming during my time at college, and it is safe to say that it isn't required for being a good programmer or for interviews. Sure, it will help you polish your programming skills, but it requires a lot of effort in terms of time and energy and learning new things. And number 4, build project. How do you show a potential employer that you know how to code? It is through projects. Studies have shown that project-based learning is the most effective way to learn a new thing. But this is the part that I had the most problem in when I was getting started. Because let's say I wanted to make a Python project. I used to open up YouTube or Udemy. I used to watch tutorial after tutorial, and I used to feel that I can make the project. And when I actually tried to build it, I wasn't able to. I saw a bunch of tutorials, but I didn't actually make any progress. And I know a lot of people go through the same thing. It's so common that there's a term for it in the tech community. It is called tutorial hell. So how do you actually make projects? Well, you start out small, build small projects that you can do in a day or two, challenge yourself, and after that move on to longer projects. Like whenever I used to follow a tutorial, I made sure that the project that I made was really different than the tutorial. Also, building projects will help you learn common software engineering tools like Git for version control, command line to install dependencies, run your app, build something, IDE where you'll actually code like VS Code, and testing your code and deploying it, and a lot of different things. And you can share these projects on GitHub, which will give you a lot of visibility, and it will increase your chances of getting noticed by a recruiter. So what kind of projects should you make? Well, you should start with simple projects and then move on to complex stuff. Like some good project ideas that I would like to build are my own e-commerce platform or like a shop, my portfolio website, a URL shortener, a crypto price tracker that sends me an email based on my preferences, a forum, and a lot of different things. These were just some web development related projects, but you can build whatever you want. Once you're done with these 4 steps, you are pretty much ready to take on software engineering roles. But to get a job, you need to showcase your profile really well, and you can do that by a really good resume. So building an impactful resume is really important, and in this video I talk about how you can make a really good resume, and I have also shared the resume that got me into Amazon and Google. So check it out and subscribe.